The struggle beneath the surface. Dr. Sarah Coleman sat in her warmly lit office, her eyes scanning through the notes of her latest patient, Marcus Wilson. The room was filled with calming tones, soft beige walls, a few plants in the corners, and abstract art that hung on the walls, each piece selected to make her clients feel safe. But as she read through Marcus's file, a familiar ache settled in her chest. It wasn't the first time she had dealt with a case like his, but it never got easier. Marcus was a 15-year-old black teenager who had transferred to a predominantly white school just a year ago. His mother, Linda Wilson, had contacted Dr. Coleman out of desperation after noticing a severe change in Marcus's behavior. Once a bright, talkative boy, Marcus had become withdrawn, quiet, and emotionally distant. His grades had plummeted, and he spent most of his time locked away in his room. But what worried Linda the most were the deep cuts on Marcus's wrists that she had discovered one night. Dr. Coleman leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply. Marcus's story wasn't new. As a therapist who had dedicated her life to helping marginalized communities, she had witnessed firsthand how racism, isolation, and bullying could crush even the strongest of spirits. But Marcus's case was different. There was something deeper in his pain, something that made her worry in ways she hadn't in a long time. When Marcus arrived for his first session, he had been reluctant to speak. His mother had sat in the waiting room, hopeful but exhausted. Dr. Coleman greeted him with a gentle smile, motioning him to sit on the comfortable couch opposite her desk. Marcus's posture was closed off, arms crossed over his chest, eyes fixated on the ground. His hoodie was pulled over his head, casting a shadow on his face, hiding the emotional storm within. "Hi, Marcus. It's really nice to meet you. I know it can be hard coming in here, so I appreciate you being here today." Dr. Coleman started, her voice soft but steady. Marcus nodded but remained silent. "Your mom told me a little about what's been going on. I know school's been tough, and it sounds like you've had a lot on your mind lately. How are you feeling right now?" For a moment, it seemed like Marcus wouldn't respond, but then, barely audible, he muttered, "Tired." "Tired how?" Dr. Coleman gently probed. "Just tired. Of everything," he said, still not making eye contact. Dr. Coleman knew that behind those simple words lay a complexity of emotions that needed to be unpacked slowly. It was like trying to untangle a knot that had been pulled tighter and tighter over time. "That sounds really hard," she said empathetically. "Do you want to tell me a little more about what's been making you feel that way?" Marcus was silent for a long time. His foot tapped nervously against the floor, and he picked at a loose thread on his jeans. Finally, he looked up, his eyes hollow and full of unspoken pain. "They don't like me," he whispered. "Who doesn't like you?" Dr. Coleman asked. "Everyone. The kids at school. The teachers pretend like they don't see it. But they do. They don't care." This was the moment Dr. Coleman had anticipated, the unraveling of the layers of hurt that Marcus had been carrying alone. She didn't push too hard. She wanted him to feel safe enough to continue. "They call me names," Marcus continued, his voice breaking slightly. "They say I don't belong there, that I'm a freak, a nobody. Every day it's something new. I try to ignore it, but it's like it never stops." The weight of his words filled the room. Marcus's pain was palpable, and Dr. Coleman felt it as if it were her own. She had heard stories like this before, but each one was a reminder of the deep-seated issues that plagued not just the school system but society at large. "I'm so sorry you've had to go through that, Marcus," Dr. Coleman said, leaning forward slightly. "No one deserves to be treated that way. Have you been able to talk to anyone at school about it?" Marcus scoffed bitterly. "What's the point? They don't care. I tried telling one of the teachers once, and he just said, 'Boys will be boys.' Like it was normal." Dr. Coleman's heart sank. She had seen this too many times. Adults in positions of power who turned a blind eye to the suffering of children, especially black children, dismissing their pain as trivial. That must have felt really frustrating, she said. Marcus nodded, his face crumpling slightly. Yeah, it did. And your mom? Have you been able to talk to her about what's going on? Marcus shook his head. I don't want to worry her. She's already working 2 jobs to keep us going. She doesn't need more problems. Dr. Coleman made a mental note of Marcus's deep sense of responsibility. He was trying to protect his mother from his own pain, which only added to his isolation. Your mom loves you a lot, Marcus. I'm sure she'd want to know how you're feeling. But I understand why you don't want to add to her stress. It sounds like you've been carrying a lot on your own. Yeah, Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. That's a lot for anyone to handle, especially by themselves. But you don't have to go through this alone. We're going to work through this together, okay? You've already taken the hardest step by coming here. Marcus didn't say anything, but for the first time, he looked Dr. Coleman in the eyes. There was a flicker of hope, faint but there, buried beneath layers of hurt. As the session drew to a close, Dr. Coleman could see the exhaustion in Marcus's posture, the way his shoulders slumped under the weight of the unspoken. But she also sensed that he had wanted to release some of that burden, even if he didn't fully understand how just yet. Marcus, I want you to know that this is a safe space. You can tell me anything, and it won't leave this room unless you want it to. I'm here to help you, not judge you. I know it's going to take time, but I'm really glad you're here. You deserve to feel better. He nodded again, this time a little more assuredly. As Marcus left the room, Dr. Coleman felt the heavy responsibility that came with her job settle over her once more. There was so much work to be done, not just with Marcus, but with the systems that had failed him. In the quiet of her office, Dr. Coleman made a promise to herself, and to Marcus, that she would help him find his way back from the edge, no matter how long it took. But she knew that healing wasn't a straight path, and there were difficult days ahead. Days where the darkness would seem too overwhelming, where Marcus might feel like giving up. But Dr. Coleman was determined to be the light that guided him through it, unmasking the pain. As the days turned into weeks, Dr. Sarah Coleman watched Marcus Wilson transform in subtle yet profound ways. Each session with him brought new layers of his story to light. Despite the daunting challenges he faced, there were moments when his resilience shone through, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. On a bright Wednesday afternoon, Marcus entered Dr. Coleman's office with a hesitant smile, a stark contrast to the withdrawn boy she had first met. He was still wearing his signature hoodie, but today he had pulled it back just enough for her to catch a glimpse of his eyes. It was a small victory, but in therapy, every small victory counted. Hey, Marcus, it's good to see you, she greeted, her voice warm and inviting. He offered a shy nod and slumped into the couch, his posture still conveying a hint of uncertainty. Hey, Dr. Coleman, how are you feeling today? She asked, taking a seat across from him. Marcus shrugged. I don't know. Better, I guess. But still, it's hard. Dr. Coleman nodded in understanding. What's been hard for you this week? Marcus hesitated, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. School, mostly. The same stuff. They still call me names and make fun of me. Dr. Coleman felt a familiar tightening in her chest. Have things changed at all since we last spoke? Any moments that stood out to you? He took a deep breath and leaned back into the couch, staring at the ceiling for a moment as if the answer was written there. I tried to ignore them more. But then, the other day, they threw a water bottle at me in gym class. It hit me right in the back. That must have hurt, both physically and emotionally, Dr. Coleman said softly. Yeah. And then everyone laughed. It felt like I wasn't even a person to them. The pain in Marcus's voice echoed through the room, wrapping around Dr. Coleman's heart like a vice. It was a reminder of the cruelty that often lurked behind the walls of schools, a place meant for learning, but for some, a battleground filled with invisible scars. What did you do after that? She asked gently. I just walked out. I went to the bathroom, and locked myself in a stall. I wanted to cry, but didn't want anyone to see me. The image of Marcus, alone and hiding, struck Dr. Coleman deeply. She could sense the isolation he felt, the overwhelming desire to be seen yet simultaneously wishing to disappear. Marcus, I want to help you find ways to deal with these situations when they arise. Ignoring the bullying is one strategy, but it's important to have other tools in your toolbox too. Can we brainstorm together? He nodded, slowly, his expression shifting as he contemplated the idea. We could think about some coping strategies for when you feel overwhelmed or hurt. For example, could talking to a teacher or a trusted adult help? Dr. Coleman suggested. Marcus frowned, shaking his head. I don't think they'll care. They never do. It's just easier to keep my head down and not cause any more trouble. Dr. Coleman recognized this as a crucial moment. You're right that it can feel easier to stay silent, but I want you to remember, speaking up doesn't mean you're causing trouble. It means you're standing up for yourself. Your voice matters, Marcus, and you deserve to be heard. Marcus shifted uncomfortably on the couch, and Dr. Coleman could see the internal battle he was fighting. She leaned in, her voice gentle but firm. What if you practiced saying something? Even if it's just a small comment to a friend or teacher, it might feel less daunting when the moment arises. He considered her suggestion, his brow furrowing in concentration. I guess I could try. But it feels really hard. I understand, Dr. Coleman replied. Change can be uncomfortable, but it's also where growth happens. I believe you have the strength to do this. You're not alone in this fight. After their session, Marcus left with a little more lightness in his step, despite the weight of his experiences. Dr. Coleman couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope for him. Progress wouldn't be linear, but each step forward was significant. As the weeks rolled on, they continued to work through his feelings of isolation and self-doubt. Dr. Coleman introduced Marcus to journaling, a way for him to express himself outside their sessions. At first, he was resistant, but eventually he started to fill pages with his thoughts, raw, unfiltered emotions pouring onto the paper. One day, Marcus entered her office, clutching a worn notebook with a hesitant expression. Hey, Dr. Coleman. I wrote something, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Coleman's heart raced with anticipation. That's great, Marcus. Would you like to share it with me? He opened the notebook and read aloud, his voice shaking slightly at first, but growing steadier as he continued. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of names. Every time I try to swim to the surface, they pull me back under. I want to scream, but my voice is lost in the waves. I'm tired of feeling like I don't belong anywhere. I just want to be seen. As he read, tears welled in his eyes, and Dr. Coleman felt her own throat tighten. Marcus, that's incredibly powerful. You've captured so much of your pain in those words. I want you to know that feeling this way is valid. You have every right to feel hurt and angry. After he finished, they spent time discussing his feelings and the importance of self-acceptance. Dr. Coleman emphasized that expressing his emotions through writing was a significant step toward healing. With each passing week, Marcus began to emerge from his shell. He started to identify moments of joy, no matter how small, like the way the sun streamed through his bedroom window each morning or the taste of his favorite pizza. He even began to cultivate a friendship with a classmate named Alex, who had also faced bullying, albeit for different reasons. Their conversations became a safe space for both of them, a reprieve from the harshness of their surroundings. They bonded over shared experiences, exchanging stories of resilience and survival that forged a new, solid connection. However, not everything was straightforward. As Marcus's self-esteem grew, so did the retaliation from some of his peers. One afternoon, while he was waiting for the bus, a group of boys surrounded him, taunting him with the same cruel words he had heard before. Their laughter cut through the air like ice, and Marcus felt that familiar surge of panic rise within him. But this time, something was different. He remembered Dr. Coleman's words, the importance of standing up for himself. With a deep breath, He looked one of the boys in the eye and said, "You don't know me. You don't get to decide who I am." The boys fell silent, surprised by Marcus's unexpected response. There was a brief pause before they retreated, leaving him standing alone, heart racing but empowered. When he shared this victory with Dr. Coleman in their next session, her face lit up with pride. "That was incredible, Marcus. You stood up for yourself. How did it feel?" "Scary," he admitted, "but also liberating. Like I finally took back some control." Dr. Coleman smiled, her heart swelling with admiration for his bravery. "That's exactly it. You took a step toward reclaiming your power. Remember, this is just the beginning of your journey. You are stronger than you realize." With each session, Marcus continued to build his confidence. He learned how to identify and express his emotions in healthier ways and discovered that vulnerability was not a weakness but a form of strength. He became increasingly aware of the patterns of bullying and how to navigate them, but most importantly, he learned to believe in himself. As the school year progressed, Marcus faced new challenges and triumphs. But Dr. Coleman remained a steadfast anchor in his life. Together, they navigated the intricate dance of healing, a process filled with setbacks, breakthroughs, and profound moments of self-discovery. In the midst of the storms, Marcus was learning to find the light, and for Dr. Coleman, it was a reminder of why she had chosen this path, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, especially in the face of adversity. But unbeknownst to them both, a new chapter awaited Marcus, one that would test the very foundations of his newfound strength. As he prepared to face the trials ahead, he carried with him the knowledge that he was not alone, that there was power in his voice, and that healing was a journey worth pursuing, no matter how challenging the road may become. The turning point. As the spring semester rolled in, bringing with it warmer weather and longer days, Marcus Wilson felt a newfound sense of determination. He had come a long way since those early sessions with Dr. Sarah Coleman, but he knew that the journey was far from over. With each passing day, he practiced standing tall against the tide of negativity that surrounded him. At school, Marcus found himself developing a deeper bond with Alex, his newfound friend. Together, they formed a small, tight-knit group that included Ava, a quiet girl with a passion for art, and Jamal, a basketball player who had always been an outcast due to his refusal to conform to the toxic masculinity that dominated their school. They provided each other with much-needed support, forming a shield against the incessant bullying. One afternoon, Marcus and Alex decided to take a walk around the school's small outdoor track during lunch, a favorite spot of theirs, where they could escape the crowded cafeteria. They often talked about their dreams and fears, sharing moments of laughter and vulnerability. "I think I want to become a writer," Marcus confided one day, gazing out at the clear blue sky. "I just want to tell stories that mattered, stories that can help people feel seen." "Dude, that's awesome. You've got to do that," Alex replied, his enthusiasm infectious. "Your words have power. You've been writing more in your journal, right?" "Yeah," Marcus said, feeling a sense of pride swell in his chest. "Dr. Coleman says it's a good way to process everything." Their conversation shifted to their shared experiences of bullying, and Marcus felt a surge of gratitude for the camaraderie he had found. They discussed ways to combat the negativity at school, ideas about forming a club focused on kindness and empathy, a space where students could share their experiences without fear of judgment. "I think we should just do it," Alex suggested, his eyes shining with excitement. "Let's talk to Ms. Ramirez, the new guidance counselor, about starting a club. Maybe we can organize workshops or events to spread awareness about bullying." Marcus's heart raced at the thought. It felt ambitious, but it also felt right. "Yeah, that could really make a difference. I've always wanted to help others who are struggling like we are." After school, they headed straight to the guidance office, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Ms. Ramirez was welcoming, her office filled with colorful posters promoting mental health awareness. She listened attentively as Marcus and Alex pitched their idea for a kindness club, her expression shifting from curiosity to enthusiasm. "This is a fantastic initiative, boys. I'm all for it," she replied, her smile genuine. "I think it's essential to create a safe space for students. We can brainstorm together to get things started." With Ms. Ramirez's support, the foundation for the Kindness Club began to take shape. Word spread quickly through social media, and soon students from all grades expressed interest in joining. Marcus was initially nervous about leading the first meeting, but felt buoyed by the encouragement of his friends and Ms. Ramirez. The first meeting arrived, and Marcus stood at the front of a small, brightly lit room, filled with students eager to be a part of something bigger. As he looked around, he spotted familiar faces: Alex, Ava, and Jamal, each offering him reassuring smiles. "Hey, everyone. I'm Marcus, and this is my friend Alex. We're really excited to start this kindness club," he began, his voice trembling slightly but growing steadier with each word. "We know that bullying can make school feel really lonely. Our goal is to create a space where everyone feels safe and accepted." As he spoke, Marcus felt the warmth of the room envelop him. He shared stories of his struggles, vulnerability giving way to courage. It was liberating to be in a room filled with people who understood, people who, like him, had felt the sting of isolation. The meeting blossomed into an open discussion about their experiences, hopes, and ideas for future activities. Students shared stories of their struggles with bullying, and as they listened to one another, a sense of camaraderie began to form. As the weeks passed, the Kindness Club flourished. They organized workshops that focused on empathy and understanding, where students could learn to recognize the impact of their words and actions. They created posters to spread positive affirmations throughout the school and hosted lunchtime activities designed to encourage students to connect beyond their cliques. However, not everyone welcomed the changes. A group of students, those who thrived on bullying and exclusion, began to push back against the club's initiatives. Whispers and snickers echoed through the hallways, and Marcus felt the weight of their animosity like a dark cloud looming overhead. One afternoon, while setting up for a kindness event, Marcus overheard some boys mocking their efforts. "What a joke. What's next? A club for losers," one of them sneered. His heart sank as he turned to Alex, who looked equally frustrated. "It's like they're just waiting for us to fail," Alex said, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Marcus took a deep breath, reminding himself of the strength he had gained over the months. "They can't hurt us anymore. We're doing something important, and we can't let them take that away from us," he replied, his voice steady. The following week, during a meeting, Marcus decided to address the negativity head-on. He stood up, looking at the diverse group of students gathered in the room. "I know some people are making fun of us. They don't understand what we're trying to do here, but we can't let their words define us. Let's show them what kindness really looks like." A round of applause erupted, and the energy in the room shifted. They rallied together, brainstorming ways to counteract the negativity. They decided to host a school-wide assembly on kindness and inclusion, inviting students to share their stories and experiences. Dr. Coleman had encouraged Marcus to take risks, and now he found himself stepping further into leadership than he ever thought possible. With the support of his friends, they worked tirelessly to prepare for the event. When the day of the assembly arrived, Marcus felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He stood backstage, the thrum of voices and laughter echoing through the auditorium. As the lights dimmed and the students settled in, he felt a wave of adrenaline rush through him. Ms. Ramirez welcomed everyone, her enthusiasm palpable. "Today, we're here to talk about kindness and the power of our words. We have some brave students ready to share their stories, so let's listen and learn from one another." As the first student took the stage, Marcus watched, captivated. Each story revealed the raw truths of bullying, struggles, and the longing for acceptance. With every tale shared, he felt a profound connection to his peers. It was a reminder that they were not alone in their experiences, and their collective voices could create change. Finally, it was Marcus's turn. His heart raced as he stepped onto the stage, the bright lights momentarily blinding him. But as he looked out into the sea of faces, some familiar, some strangers, he felt a surge of determination. "Hi, everyone. I'm Marcus," he began, his voice slightly shaky but gaining strength as he continued. "I want to share a little about my journey. This year has been really tough for me. I've faced bullying that made me feel invisible, like I didn't matter. But I'm learning that my voice is powerful, and so is yours." As he spoke, he could see the faces in the audience shift from indifference to attention. He shared the importance of kindness, of understanding one another, and how it takes courage to speak up against bullying. The words flowed from him, ignited by a passion he hadn't fully realized he possessed. He urged his classmates to join the Kindness Club, to become allies in the fight against bullying, and to create a culture where everyone felt safe and valued. When he finished, the auditorium erupted in applause. His heart swelled with pride and relief, a feeling of acceptance washing over him like a balm. In that moment, he knew that he had made a difference, no matter how small. As the assembly concluded, students approached Marcus, thanking him for his bravery and sharing their own stories of struggle. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of hope and unity, a collective promise to support one another. But as the dust settled, the shadow of the bullying group loomed larger. They were not ready to give up their power easily. In the days following the assembly, Marcus began to receive anonymous notes slipped into his locker, hurtful words that cut deeply, reminding him of the very pain he was trying to escape. It was a test, one that threatened to unravel everything he had worked for. Marcus felt the familiar heaviness settle back into his chest. He confided in Dr. Coleman during their next session, his voice shaking with frustration. "It's like they won't stop. I thought things were getting better, but now I'm just scared again," he admitted, tears glistening in his eyes. Dr. Coleman leaned forward, her expression serious but compassionate. "It's normal to feel overwhelmed, Marcus. You're in the midst of a battle, and sometimes battles get tougher before they get easier. But remember, you have support. You're not facing this alone." Marcus nodded, though doubt lingered in his heart. He had fought so hard to find his voice, to stand tall against the tide of bullying, but now he felt the walls closing in again. He couldn't let them win. Determined to push through the negativity, Marcus and his friends gathered together once more. They brainstormed ways to combat the anonymous bullying, channeling their energy into positive actions. They decided to use the notes as a rallying cry for the Kindness Club, creating a campaign to raise awareness about the impact of bullying and the importance of compassion. Their efforts culminated in a school-wide Kindness Week, filled with activities that promoted positivity and understanding. They encouraged students to write uplifting notes for one another, share stories of kindness, and recognize the strength in vulnerability. Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose as he dove into the planning. He knew he couldn't control what others said or did, but he could control how he responded. As Kindness Week approached, anticipation buzzed through the school. Posters adorned the walls, and students began talking about the upcoming events. Marcus felt his heart swell with pride. They were making an impact, and he was no longer alone in the fight. On the first day of Kindness Week, Marcus stood before the student body, excitement coursing through him. "Welcome to Kindness Week, everyone. This week, we're challenging ourselves to spread kindness and support one another. Let's create a community where everyone feels valued." With each passing day, the atmosphere at school began to shift. Laughter replaced whispers, and friendships blossomed where there had once been animosity. Students started to wear kindness badges, and spontaneous acts of generosity became the norm, holding doors, complimenting one another, and offering a listening ear. But as the tide of kindness surged, so did the desperation of the bullying group. Their antics escalated. They began to target Marcus and his friends directly, determined to undermine their efforts. One afternoon, as Marcus and Alex walked home from school, they were confronted by a group of boys who had been taunting them relentlessly. "Look who it is, the losers of the kindness club," one of them jeered. "Why don't you go cry to your therapist?" Another chimed in, laughter echoing around them. For a moment, Marcus felt his resolve waver. The familiar dread settled in, and he instinctively took a step back. But then he remembered Dr. Coleman's words, the importance of standing tall and the strength that comes from unity. He turned to Alex, who nodded in silent support. They faced the group together. "We're not going to let you get to us," Marcus said, his voice steady. "We're doing something positive, and you can't take that away from us." The group fell silent, caught off guard by their defiance. For a moment, it felt as if the world had paused, the air thick with tension. "Whatever, man. Just know you'll never be one of us," one of the boys spat, turning away with a sneer. As the group retreated, Marcus and Alex exchanged glances, their hearts racing. "That was intense," Alex said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Yeah," Marcus replied, feeling a mix of adrenaline and relief. "But we stood our ground. We're stronger together." That night, as he sat down to write in his journal, Marcus reflected on the events of the day. He felt a newfound strength rising within him, a resilience he hadn't known he possessed. The battles were far from over, but he was learning to embrace the challenges as opportunities for growth. As he poured his heart onto the pages, Marcus realized that each step he took, each voice he found, was not just for himself, but for those who felt voiceless. He was becoming a beacon of hope, a reminder that no one had to walk this path alone. In the following weeks, Kindness Week continued to gain momentum. Students began to share their stories openly, fostering an environment of acceptance and understanding. But the bullying group was not finished. They were watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike back. One fateful afternoon, as Marcus and his friends were preparing for a presentation on the impact of bullying, disaster struck. A group of students had broken into their makeshift display, tearing down posters and throwing the messages of kindness into disarray. The air crackled with tension as Marcus rushed to the scene, feeling his heart drop. He watched helplessly as the group laughed and jeered, completely disregarding the messages of love and support that they had worked so hard to create. Marcus felt anger and frustration bubble within him, threatening to overflow. But in that moment, he remembered the lessons he had learned from Dr. Coleman. The importance of response over reaction. "Stop," he shouted, stepping forward with renewed confidence. "This is not okay. You're tearing down something that matters to us. Why are you doing this?" The boys turned, momentarily caught off guard by his sudden assertiveness. But rather than backing down, they laughed, their taunts sharper than ever. "What are you gonna do about it, loser?" Marcus took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage he had. "We're not afraid of you. We're here to build something positive, and you can't stop us." In that moment, a ripple of silence fell over the crowd. It was as if time had frozen, and Marcus stood firm, embodying the strength he had fought so hard to find. Finally, the boys scoffed and turned away, leaving behind a scattering of torn posters and whispers of laughter. But for Marcus, it was a moment of victory, an affirmation that he could confront his fears, that he could be a voice for change. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Marcus gathered his friends to regroup. "We can fix this," he said, determination etched on his face. "We'll make our display stronger and more powerful than before." With their collective resolve, they worked late into the night, patching together the remnants of their efforts. They crafted new posters, each one filled with powerful messages of hope, resilience, and the importance of standing together. When they returned to school the next day, they were met with unexpected support. Students who had previously remained silent rallied around them, helping to restore the display and standing up against the bullying group. That evening, Dr. Coleman called Marcus, her voice filled with pride. "I heard what happened today. I'm so proud of you for standing up for what you believe in. This is a testament to your growth, and it shows how much you care." As Marcus listened, he felt a wave of warmth wash over him. He realized that he was no longer the boy who had once cowered in fear. He was becoming a leader, a catalyst for change. With renewed energy, they organized a kindness rally, inviting students from all grades to come together to celebrate empathy, support, and resilience. They decorated the school with uplifting messages and gathered to share their stories in an open forum. When the day of the rally arrived, Marcus stood before the crowd, his heart pounding with excitement. The auditorium was packed with students, all eager to embrace the message of kindness that had started to ripple through their school. "Welcome, everyone," Marcus began, his voice strong and confident. "Today, we're here to celebrate kindness, to remind ourselves that we're all part of this community, and we deserve to lift each other up." As he spoke, he felt the energy of the crowd surge, a collective promise to create a culture of understanding and support. They shared their stories, tales of struggle, resilience, and the transformative power of kindness. By the end of the rally, tears of joy filled the eyes of many. Students embraced one another, creating connections that transcended the barriers that had once divided them. Marcus looked around, his heart swelling with pride. This was the change they had fought for, the realization that their voices mattered and that their experiences could inspire others. As the sun set on that transformative day, Marcus stood outside with his friends, a sense of hope radiating from within. They had turned the tide, united in their mission to combat bullying and foster a community of compassion. But beneath the surface, the bullying group simmered in frustration, plotting their next move. As Marcus prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing for sure. He had found his voice, and together, they would rise against the darkness. Little did he know, the true test of his strength and resolve was yet to come. A challenge that would push him to the very limits of his courage and force him to confront the shadows of his past head-on. But for now, surrounded by friends and a supportive community, Marcus felt invincible, a warrior ready to fight for a better tomorrow. Shadows and strength. As the sun rose on a new day, Marcus Wilson felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. The kindness rally had sparked a movement at school, but in the back of his mind, he could still hear the whispers of doubt from the bullying group, echoes of a struggle that seemed far from over. Despite the support he received from his friends, the doubts lingered like shadows, threatening to overshadow his newfound confidence. He often wondered how long it would take for the old wounds to heal, for the scars left by bullying to fade into the background. But he also understood that healing was not a linear process. It was filled with ups and downs, victories and challenges. One afternoon, while sitting in Ms. Ramirez's office, he and Alex were brainstorming ideas for their next Kindness Club event. Marcus had been inspired by the success of the rally and wanted to keep the momentum going. "What about a talent show?" he suggested, his eyes lighting up. "We could showcase different talents and have everyone perform something they're passionate about. It could be a great way to bring people together." Alex's face broke into a wide grin. "That's brilliant. We can use it as a platform to highlight how diverse and talented our student body is, and maybe even invite some local artists to perform." Marcus nodded, excitement coursing through him. The talent show could serve as a celebration of individuality, a reminder that every student had something valuable to contribute. They quickly contacted Ms. Ramirez, who was more than willing to help them bring their idea to life. As the weeks passed, preparations for the talent show kicked into high gear. Flyers went up around the school, excitement bubbled among the students, and even the teachers began to get involved. The event was scheduled for the last Friday of the month, a date that loomed closer with each passing day. However, amidst the preparations, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The bullying group had grown increasingly agitated by the changes taking place in the school. Rumors swirled around the halls, and Marcus began receiving more anonymous notes. The taunts were sharper, more personal. Accusations about his worth, suggestions that he was a loser for trying to make a difference. One afternoon, Marcus found a particularly cruel note in his locker, written in angry scrawls. "You'll always be a nobody, trying to play the hero. Just give up." His heart sank as he read the words, feeling the familiar weight of despair threatened to drag him under. That evening, as he shared his frustrations with Dr. Coleman during their session, he felt a storm of emotions bubbling to the surface. "I thought things were getting better, but now it just feels like the same old cycle. I'm tired of fighting, tired of feeling like I'm not enough," he admitted, his voice shaking. Dr. Coleman leaned forward, her expression empathetic. "Marcus, it's completely normal to feel overwhelmed, especially when you're standing up against negativity. But remember, every time you face these challenges, you grow stronger. You're becoming the person you were meant to be. And it's okay to feel vulnerable." His heart raced as he absorbed her words, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "I just wish I could make them understand that kindness matters," he murmured. "You are making a difference," she replied firmly. "Every time you share your story, every time you stand up against bullying, you're planting seeds of change. It may not happen overnight, but you're creating a ripple effect. Just look at how the talent show has inspired others." Encouraged by Dr. Coleman's words, Marcus returned home that evening determined to push through the darkness. He spent hours working on the details for the talent show, fueled by a desire to create something beautiful and transformative. As the big day approached, excitement buzzed through the school. Students signed up to showcase their talents: singers, dancers, musicians, and even poets, all eager to share their gifts with their peers. Marcus felt a sense of pride as he watched the spirit of collaboration flourish, unity replacing the isolation he had once felt. But as the day drew near, the bullying group seemed to be ramping up their efforts. Rumors circulated that they were planning to disrupt the talent show, determined to undermine the positivity Marcus and his friends had cultivated. On the day of the event, the auditorium filled with students, parents, and teachers buzzing with anticipation. Bright lights illuminated the stage, and colorful banners adorned the walls, each bearing messages of support and encouragement. Marcus stood backstage with Alex, their nerves palpable. "Are you ready for this?" Alex asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. "More than ready," Marcus replied, though his heart raced in his chest. He took a deep breath, recalling Dr. Coleman's words. "Let's show them what kindness looks like." As the talent show kicked off, Marcus felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. Each performance was a celebration of individuality and creativity, a reminder that everyone had a voice worth hearing. He laughed and cheered along with the audience, feeling the tension of the past few weeks begin to dissolve. But just as the show reached its climax, the bullying group made their presence known. A few members slipped into the back of the auditorium, their expressions sour and defiant. They began to heckle the performers, throwing insults that pierced through the joy of the moment. Marcus's heart raced as he saw the disruption unfold. "We can't let them ruin this," he whispered to Alex. "Let's confront them," Alex replied, determination sparking in his eyes. They made their way through the crowd, approaching the group with their heads held high. "You need to leave," Marcus said firmly, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "This is a space for kindness, and we won't let you ruin it." The leader of the bullying group, Jake, sneered at them. "What are you going to do about it? You think your little club can stop us? You're just a bunch of losers." In that moment, something inside Marcus shifted. He felt the weight of every hurtful word he had ever received, the collective pain of all the students who had suffered in silence. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest, and stood tall. "No," he said, his voice clear and unwavering. "We are not losers. We're here to celebrate each other and lift one another up. You can't take that away from us." The audience fell silent, captivated by Marcus's courage. The energy in the room shifted as more students began to stand up, joining Marcus and Alex in solidarity. "This is our show. We deserve to feel safe and supported. Someone shouted, their voice ringing out. The tide had turned, and the power dynamic shifted in that moment. The audience erupted into applause, standing together against the negativity that threatened to drown out their celebration. With the support of their peers, Marcus and Alex faced the group, the atmosphere charged with resilience. Jake and his friends exchanged glances, their bravado wavering as they realized the strength of unity in the room. Finally, they turned and retreated, the echo of their insults fading away. The audience erupted in cheers, a collective roar of triumph that filled the auditorium. As the talent show continued, Marcus felt a rush of exhilaration. He had faced his fears, and the strength of his community had carried him through. The remaining performances were filled with laughter and joy, the spirit of kindness reverberating throughout the room. At the end of the night, as the lights dimmed and the final applause echoed, Marcus stood backstage, overwhelmed with emotion. His friends surrounded him, their faces beaming with pride. "You did it, Marcus. That was incredible," Alex exclaimed, clapping him on the back. "We all did it," Marcus replied, a grin spreading across his face. Together. As they celebrated their success, Marcus felt a profound sense of belonging wash over him. He had found his voice, forged connections with his peers, and stood up against the shadows of bullying. But the journey was far from over. The following days would test his resolve as the bullying group plotted their retaliation. With the talent show behind him, Marcus felt empowered, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that he was no longer alone in the fight. In the quiet moments, he would reflect on the power of resilience, the importance of community, and the strength that comes from vulnerability. With each challenge he faced, he would continue to rise, determined to transform the darkness into light, one act of kindness at a time. The rising storm. In the days following the talent show, Marcus Wilson was riding high on a wave of adrenaline and success. The auditorium had echoed with laughter and applause, and the powerful messages of support and unity had resonated throughout the school. For the first time in a long while, Marcus felt a sense of belonging, a connection to his peers that was uplifting and inspiring. However, he also sensed that the bullying group was lying in wait, seething with resentment over their defeat. As he walked the halls of Northside High, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was coming. The once quiet whispers had grown louder, and glances exchanged in the hallways seemed more charged with hostility than ever. It was as if the tension in the air could be sliced with a knife, and Marcus knew he had to stay vigilant. In the midst of all this, the Kindness Club had continued to flourish. They organized daily meetings to discuss new initiatives, and many students began volunteering to support their efforts. Marcus felt a sense of responsibility to keep the momentum going, to show his peers that they could make a difference together. One sunny afternoon, as Marcus and Alex sat at a table in the cafeteria, planning their next community service project, the conversation turned serious. "What if we organize a community cleanup day?" Marcus suggested, his enthusiasm evident. "We could show the school that we care about our environment and want to take pride in our community." "That's a great idea," Alex replied, nodding eagerly. "We could get local businesses to sponsor it, maybe even organize a picnic afterward to celebrate our efforts." Just then, Jake and his friends strolled into the cafeteria, their presence commanding attention. They sauntered past Marcus and Alex, laughter echoing around them. Jake caught Marcus's eye, a smirk creeping across his face. "Look, it's the Kindness Club. What a joke," he sneered, loud enough for those around to hear. "You think picking up trash is gonna make people like you? You're still just a bunch of losers." The laughter of his friends boomed, and Marcus felt the familiar sting of humiliation. He took a deep breath, trying to remind himself of all he had learned about resilience and strength. But a knot of anger twisted in his stomach. He couldn't let them take away the progress they had made. "Jake, we're not here to impress you," Marcus shot back, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We're trying to make a difference, and that's more than you'll ever do." Jake's expression darkened. Whatever, man. Enjoy your little club. Just remember, no one really cares. Marcus's heart raced as he watched Jake and his friends saunter away, the laughter fading but leaving a bitter taste behind. He could feel the weight of their words pressing down on him, but he also felt a surge of determination. He wouldn't let them dictate his worth. That afternoon, as Marcus walked home, he reflected on the confrontation. It was easy to feel small in the face of their taunts, but he realized that he had stood up for himself and for his beliefs. He had a community of support now, and he was no longer isolated in his struggles. The next day, as he met with Dr. Coleman for their weekly session, he shared his feelings about the encounter with Jake. "I feel like we're making progress with the Kindness Club, but there are still these setbacks. Jake's comments got to me more than I'd like to admit," he confessed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Dr. Coleman leaned forward, her expression understanding. "It's normal to feel frustrated when you encounter resistance, especially when you're trying to create positive change. But remember, the opinions of a few do not define your worth or your impact. You're a leader, Marcus, and leaders face challenges head-on." Her words resonated deeply, a reminder that setbacks were merely stepping stones on the path to growth. "You're right. I can't let them dim my light," he said, determination flickering in his chest. As the days passed, the Kindness Club continued their preparations for the community cleanup day, and more students joined in. Posters adorned the school, announcing the event and encouraging participation. But even as excitement grew, the bullying group began to plot their next move. Marcus had heard whispers that they were planning something, and he couldn't shake the feeling of impending chaos. On the day of the cleanup, the sun shone brightly, and a sense of camaraderie filled the air as students gathered on the school lawn. They were divided into teams, armed with garbage bags and gloves, ready to make their neighborhood shine. Marcus felt a swell of pride watching everyone come together, laughter and positivity echoing around them. As they started their work, Marcus and Alex headed to the nearby park, where litter had piled up, tarnishing its natural beauty. "This is great," Alex said, his voice filled with excitement. "Look at how many people showed up. We're really making a difference." They worked hard, picking up trash and chatting with classmates. But as they rounded a corner, they spotted a group of students leaning against a tree, snickering and whispering among themselves. It was Jake and his crew, lurking like shadows, clearly waiting for the right moment to strike. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The playful atmosphere of the day quickly shifted, tension creeping in as the group's laughter reached them. "Look at them, cleaning up the park like it's going to change anything," Jake called out, his tone mocking. "What a waste of time. You think picking up garbage is going to make you popular?" The laughter of Jake's friends echoed around them, cutting through the camaraderie of the day. Marcus felt anger rise within him, but he remembered Dr. Coleman's advice. "Stay calm, stay strong," he whispered to himself. "Actually, we're helping our community," Marcus replied, his voice firm. "Maybe if you took a moment to contribute instead of tear others down, you'd understand." Jake stepped forward, crossing his arms defiantly. "Contribute? To what? A bunch of losers trying to play hero. No one cares about your little cleanup. You think it makes you special." Marcus's heart raced, but he refused to back down. "It's not about being special. It's about making a difference, something you wouldn't understand." Just then, a few other students from the Kindness Club gathered around. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Marcus and Alex, the crowd began to swell, an unspoken alliance forming against the negativity that threatened to engulf them. "What are you going to do about it, huh?" Jake spat, his bravado slipping as the numbers swelled against him. "You think you can just surround me and intimidate me?" "No one is trying to intimidate you, Jake," Marcus said, feeling the surge of confidence. "We're here to show that kindness can stand up to cruelty. You're welcome to join us, but we won't let you ruin our efforts." The atmosphere shifted, and the crowd began to rally behind Marcus, the tension bubbling beneath the surface. "You don't have to be a bully, Jake," one student called out, stepping forward. "You can be part of something bigger than yourself." Jake's expression faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, but he quickly masked it with anger, glancing back at his friends, searching for support. "You're all pathetic," he snapped, turning on his heel and storming away, his friends trailing behind him. As the tension dissipated, the students who had rallied around Marcus began to cheer. "You stood up to them," Alex exclaimed, clapping him on the back. "That was amazing." Marcus felt a mix of exhilaration and relief. He had faced the bullies head-on, and he was proud of the way his peers had supported him. As they resumed their cleanup efforts, the atmosphere shifted back to one of joy and laughter. They filled bags with litter, bonding over shared stories and their love for their community. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park, Marcus sat with his friends, feeling a sense of accomplishment. They had made a difference, not just in the park, but in their own hearts. But deep down, Marcus knew that the bullying group wouldn't stay silent for long. The shadows still loomed, waiting for the right moment to strike back. As they headed home, Marcus felt a mix of anticipation and fear, ready to face whatever came next. In the quiet of his room that night, he picked up his journal, pouring his thoughts onto the pages. Each entry was a reminder of the progress he had made, the battles he had fought, and the strength he had found within himself. He was no longer just Marcus, the boy who had been bullied. He was a leader, a warrior, and a force for change. And he would continue to rise against the darkness, determined to transform every challenge into an opportunity for growth. But the true test of his strength and resolve was still ahead. The storm was coming, and Marcus knew he would have to confront it head-on, armed with the knowledge that he was not alone in the fight. Together, they would shine brighter than the shadows ever could. The light after the storm. The following week, the air was thick with tension at Northside High School. Marcus could feel it in his bones, an unease that seemed to ripple through the hallways. The fallout from the community cleanup day had left Jake and his crew seething, and Marcus knew they were plotting their revenge. The camaraderie built over the past weeks felt fragile, hanging in the balance as whispers and rumors circulated like wildfire. In their weekly meeting, the Kindness Club members gathered in Ms. Ramirez's classroom, an aura of concern hanging over them. Marcus could sense the trepidation in his friend's eyes. "Do you think they'll retaliate?" one student asked, breaking the heavy silence. "I mean, after what happened at the park, they must be furious." Marcus took a deep breath, rallying his thoughts. "I'm sure they will try something," he replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that churned inside him. "But we can't let fear control us. We've made so much progress, and we can't back down now. If they come at us, we need to stick together." Alex nodded in agreement, his expression resolute. "We've built a community here. Let's not forget that. We're stronger than they think." With their spirits lifted, they dove into brainstorming for their next project, a week of kindness, where they would perform daily acts of kindness and encourage everyone to participate. As they discussed ideas, laughter began to fill the room, and the sense of community they had built began to overshadow the looming threat. But as the days passed, the tension escalated. Jake and his friends began to spread rumors about Marcus and the Kindness Club, trying to undermine their efforts and turn their classmates against them. It was subtle at first, whispers in the hall, snickers behind closed doors. But Marcus felt the shift. He could see the doubt creeping into the eyes of some students who had previously rallied behind them. One afternoon, as Marcus walked to his locker, he overheard a group of students talking nearby. "Did you hear? They say Marcus is just trying to get attention with that Kindness Club. He's a loser," one girl sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. Marcus's heart sank, the sting of the words cutting deeper than he anticipated. He felt a mix of anger and sadness, but more than anything, he felt a sense of betrayal. Hadn't they fought hard to create something meaningful? "Hey, don't let it get to you," Alex said, noticing Marcus's expression as he caught up to him. Remember why we started this. We're making a difference, regardless of what they say. Marcus nodded, but doubts gnawed at him. It was harder than he had anticipated to keep the positivity flowing when faced with such negativity. That afternoon, he sat down with Dr. Coleman, needing to vent his frustrations. "It's like they're trying to tear us apart," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "I thought we were making progress, but now it feels like we're back where we started." Dr. Coleman listened intently, her eyes reflecting understanding. "Change often comes with resistance, Marcus. It's a natural part of growth. You're facing a critical moment in your journey, one that will define not only your character, but the strength of your community." "What if they win?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Winning isn't defined by the absence of conflict. It's about how you respond to it. Remember, even in the face of adversity, your actions can inspire others. Stand firm in your values, and let that light shine through the darkness." She replied, her words resonating deeply within him. With newfound determination, Marcus decided that he wouldn't let the negativity deter him. He rallied the Kindness Club, emphasizing the importance of staying united. They prepared for the Week of Kindness with renewed vigor, determined to showcase the power of positivity even in the face of adversity. As the week kicked off, students participated in various acts of kindness, notes of encouragement left in lockers, surprise treats shared, and even spontaneous dance parties in the hallways. The energy in the school shifted as smiles replaced frowns, and laughter echoed where there had been whispers of doubt. But on the final day of the Week of Kindness, Jake and his friends made their move. They organized a counter-rally, intending to undermine everything Marcus and his friends had worked for. The announcement spread like wildfire, igniting curiosity and concern among students. "Are you going to go?" Alex asked, worry etched on his face as they discussed the situation. "I think we need to be there," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "We can't let them turn our kindness into something ugly. If we stand together, we can show them that their negativity has no power over us." On the day of the counter-rally, students gathered in the courtyard, buzzing with anticipation. As Marcus and the Kindness Club members approached, they noticed Jake and his friends at the center, their arms crossed and scowls plastered on their faces. Jake grabbed the mic, his voice booming over the crowd. "Look at these losers, trying to tell you how to live your life. Kindness won't get you anywhere. It's about being tough and standing your ground." His words sparked a wave of laughter from his supporters, but this time, Marcus felt a swell of anger rise within him. He stepped forward, gathering his courage as he took the mic from Jake. "Jake, you may think that kindness is a weakness, but it takes more strength to lift someone up than to tear them down," Marcus shouted, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "We're not here to play the hero. We're here to show that every voice matters and that everyone deserves to be treated with respect." The crowd fell silent, the tension palpable as they processed Marcus's words. He could see a few students nodding in agreement, their expressions shifting from amusement to contemplation. "We're not trying to force our beliefs on anyone," Marcus continued, his voice unwavering. "We're simply asking for kindness in return. Look around you. This community is made stronger when we support one another instead of tearing each other down. Let's be better than the negativity that surrounds us." Jake's face twisted in anger as the crowd began to murmur, and Marcus sensed the shift. He looked around, seeing students who had once supported him standing in solidarity. "Let's stand together," Marcus urged, raising his arms. "Let's choose kindness, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us." With a collective cheer, the students rallied behind him, the atmosphere charged with renewed energy. The bullies' laughter faltered as the tide began to turn. As the students united, Jake and his friends attempted to regain control of the situation, but their taunts fell flat against the overwhelming support Marcus received. One by one, students began to chant, "Kindness matters. Kindness matters." With each repetition, Marcus felt a wave of empowerment wash over him. He had turned the tide, transforming the negativity into a powerful display of unity. As the counter-rally dissolved into a celebration of kindness, Marcus realized the true strength of his community. They were not just allies, they were friends, bound by a shared vision of compassion and support. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere at Northside High shifted dramatically. Students began to stand up for one another, and the spirit of kindness permeated the hallways. The bullying group gradually lost their grip, fading into the background as their tactics grew increasingly desperate. One afternoon, as Marcus walked to his locker, he noticed a group of students gathered, sharing laughter and stories. It warmed his heart to see the change that had taken root within the school. He approached them, a smile spreading across his face. "Hey, everyone, what's going on?" he asked, genuinely curious. One of the girls turned to him, beaming. "We were just talking about the upcoming school festival and how we can incorporate more acts of kindness into it. Your kindness club inspired us." Marcus felt a rush of pride, a warmth spreading through him. "That's incredible. We'd love to help however we can." In the following months, Marcus watched as the Kindness Club continued to flourish, their influence spreading beyond the confines of Northside High. They organized events, collaborated with local charities, and built bridges within their community. Each initiative inspired more students to join in, amplifying the impact they had begun. As graduation approached, Marcus stood on the cusp of a new chapter in his life. He reflected on the journey that had brought him here, the struggles, the victories, and the friends he had made along the way. One afternoon, as he sat down with Dr. Coleman for their final session, he felt a mix of nostalgia and gratitude. "I can't believe this is our last meeting," he said, his voice tinged with emotion. Dr. Coleman smiled warmly. "You've come a long way, Marcus. You've grown into a remarkable leader, and I have no doubt that you will continue to inspire others as you move forward. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. It's just the beginning." Marcus nodded, a sense of purpose igniting within him. "Thank you for believing in me. I know I have the tools to face whatever comes next." As graduation day arrived, Marcus stood on the stage, surrounded by his peers. The auditorium buzzed with excitement, and he could see the faces of friends and family beaming with pride. As he took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone, he felt a surge of emotion. "Today, we celebrate not just our achievements, but the power of kindness, resilience, and community. Each of us has faced our own battles, but together, we can create a world where everyone feels valued and respected." The crowd erupted into applause, and Marcus felt a wave of joy wash over him. He knew that the journey ahead would come with challenges, but he was ready to face them, armed with the lessons he had learned and the strength of his community behind him. As the ceremony concluded and the graduates tossed their caps into the air, Marcus looked out at the sea of faces, filled with hope for the future. They had created something beautiful together, a legacy of kindness that would endure long after they had walked across that stage. And as he stepped into the next chapter of his life, he knew that the spirit of the Kindness Club would continue to shine brightly, illuminating the path forward for others.